lung damage. That's something that could happen when you vape. What is vaping? How would you describe vaping, Cooper?
It's basically an electronic cigarette.
Okay, an electronic cigarette that does what? So let's add to that, Ben.
It's like when you breathe in the vapor from which has a lot of chemicals in it, and you breathe it into your body, and then it does bad stuff to your body.
Okay. You breathe it in and you do what? What after that? And you blow it out. Everybody take a deep breath. And breathe it out. The only thing you're supposed to breathe is air. You weren't meant to breathe in cigarette, tobacco, vaping, all the vape smoke, the liquids, only air, right? Okay, so these slides are going to look very familiar to you because this is the information that we talked about. Instead of talking about cigarettes, we have replaced the information with e-cigarettes, right? The vaping. So who can read short-term effects? Nora.
Increases heart rate. Addiction can happen within days of smoking.
Keep going.
Shortness of breath.
Good. Dizziness, headaches and dizziness. What about this list makes you think? What do you think when you see this list? Ben?
It has a lot in common with cigarettes.
Yeah, it's almost the identical same list. In fact, we talked about this with cigarettes as well. Cigarettes can still cause headaches and dizziness, right? So we know that the short-term effects of vaping, we have these short-term immediate effects. What about the long-term effect column? What do you notice? Pretty obvious.
Heart disease.
Okay. We are still learning a lot about that. What in the long-term effects column is there?
It can close up your lungs and it's harder.
Okay. What about in this specific long-term effect column? Liv, do you notice? There's nothing. We are not fully sure, scientists and people who are researching this are not fully sure what the long-term effects of vaping are. And that's the scariest part to us. As a health teacher, as medical staff that you just heard from, this makes us really nervous because 50, 60, 70 years ago when they were selling those cigarettes, remember the pregnant lady when we did the advertising and they thought it was all good and nothing was going to happen? That's how they're selling e-cigarettes to you right now. They're safer, they're better. Because we don't know the long-term effects, that scares us. So, if we were all scientists, if we were all researchers, okay, I like how Wyatt's starting to scratch his head like a scientist. We would look at the short-term effects and say, they're like cigarettes. These are all the same short-term effects. We could make our best guess what would be the long-term effects, if we could make our best guess from what we know. Quentin. Lung cancer. Right? So if these are the same, these are most likely going to be the same, which were what? Okay, you learned that, yep. Mouth cancer, right? We had that really messed up mouth that we passed around.
Yeah, I did not like
If these are the same, we're probably going to see the same results. What about the heart? What did we learn about the heart? With the number one avoidable disease. Heart disease was definitely one of those long-term effects. So, we know that the short-term are very similar. The long-term effects, who knows? It could be even worse, right? Because we just don't know what vaping can do to the body yet, long-term. So I have a video for you that kind of breaks down what vaping actually does to the body. You'll see it in the brain and kind of breaks it down a little bit. I don't know about you, but I learn when I see and hear a little bit. So we have some visuals with it. Here are 3 questions I want you to think about during the video. Number 1, when and where was the first e-cigarette created? Number 2, how is vaping and smoking a cigarette different? Okay, so some of the differences, but how is it the same? Because we talked about inhaling, exhaling, same thing. What are the similarities? What are the differences? And finally, why would vaping be more dangerous for you than for me? Okay, so think about that as we watch this video. I know you guys already have some thoughts, which is awesome. And then we'll talk about it after. This is from the Medical School of UCLA, so it is a good source.
People have been smoking for at least 7,000 years, but it wasn't until the 1800s that cigarettes became the smoke of choice, after machines were developed to mass produce them. 200 years later, in 2003, the electronic cigarette was invented in China, and since then the use of e-cigarettes, also called vaping, has grown exponentially around the world. E-cigarettes are electronic devices that vaporize a flavored liquid. They all used to look like cigarettes, but now they come in many shapes and sizes. Many look like pens or small boxes called mods. What they all have in common is 1. A power source, usually a lithium battery. 2. An atomizer, which heats the e-liquid. 3. E-liquid or e-juice, which usually contains flavors and nicotine. And 4. A cartridge or tank, which is filled with e-liquid. Heating the e-liquid creates a cloud of vapor that looks like smoke, but without a lot of the lethal components contained in tobacco smoke. Many people assume e-cigarettes are safer than traditional cigarettes because they don't burn anything or create tar in your lungs. But it took almost 7,000 years for humans to realize that tobacco causes lung cancer, throat and mouth cancer, causes heart attacks and strokes, and damages the lungs. E-cigs, meanwhile, have only been around a little over a decade, so there just hasn't been enough time to figure out what effects they'll have on your body. We do know that e-cigarettes deliver nicotine, just like the traditional cigarettes, causing increased heart rate and blood pressure. Nicotine also has powerful effects on the brain. It releases rewarding neurotransmitters in the brain, like dopamine, and changes brain chemistry. It is a stimulant, making people feel more alert, but when it goes away, people crave it even more. It can interfere with the body's own natural ability to make dopamine, and soon the user needs nicotine just to feel normal. The developing brain of teenagers is the most vulnerable to these effects. The powerful addictive nature of nicotine is so high that it's comparable to heroin and cocaine. Besides nicotine, e-cigarettes contain chemical solvents. When heated very high by some of the new e-cigarette devices, these solvents can be transformed into formaldehyde, which is a carcinogen. It causes cancer. These observations are concerning, but we really do not know what the long-term effects from inhaling these chemicals in your lungs will be. E-cigs contain many other chemicals to generate enticing flavors. In fact, there are almost 8,000 different flavors available today, so we don't know very much about many of them. We do know that some of the butter flavorings contain diacetyl, which is famous for causing popcorn lung. Popcorn lung is a disease called bronchiolitis obliterans, which is basically an irreversible scarring and destruction of the delicate lung tissue that can kill you. Strawberry and other healthy-sounding fruit flavors have been found to be cytotoxic and potentially cancer-causing as well. Vaping devices, or specifically the lithium batteries inside them, they explode unpredictably. Although uncommon, this happens frequently enough that e-cigarettes have been banned from luggage on airplanes. Unpredictable explosions have occurred in people's faces and mouths and resulted in serious injuries, including blindness. With these potential risks of e-cigarettes, the addictive nicotine, the exploding batteries, the carcinogenic liquids, why would any company want you to use them?
Here is why. Yep, that's what it's all about.
Sales of e-cigarettes approach $8 billion per year and are increasing. The truth is, tobacco cigarettes kill about 50% of people who use them. So tobacco companies, known as Big Tobacco, need to keep recruiting young people to become addicted in order to stay in business. Here are some actual documented quotes from tobacco executives.
This is what they've actually said about you guys.
We just sell it. We reserve the right to smoke for the young, the poor, and the stupid. The base of our business is the high school student. The fragile self-image of the young person needs all the support it can get. Smoking may appear to enhance that self-image. Studies show that when people start to smoke in their teens, they become addicted and stay smokers as they grow older. Even those who swear they will never become addicted. Many of the same strategies that Big Tobacco used to hook your grandparents into smoking tobacco cigarettes have simply been modified and are being used today with an e-cig in place of a tobacco cig. E-cigarettes come in candy and dessert flavors like Skittles, gummy bears, and vanilla cupcake, directly aimed at teens. Ads always show thin, beautiful people vaping. Even the strategic use of humor is being successfully used to get customers on their side. The bottom line is that we are all faced with important personal choices every day. We don't yet know everything we need to know to make informed decisions about many things. But we can resist being manipulated. Take your time when making your own personal decisions. It can make all the difference.
Okay, so where and when was the e-cigarette created? Who caught that? Wyatt.
2003.
2003, which is actually 20 years ago. Where was it created at? Cooper. China. So it does take a while to patent something, to learn how to manufacture and to distribute it. So that's why we're talking about only a decade of people actually using it quite a bit, right? It's been around for 20 years, it was created, but really the decade is what we've been kind of seeing a lot of people doing. Tell me about some differences, some similarities. What are you seeing with cigarettes and vaping? What did you notice from that video or information you already have? Go ahead, Nora. What is it? Is the what? It kills more people? Okay. Yep, so smoking cigarettes that we know of right now with the studies, because it's so new, kills more people, right? Because we just started seeing vaping, so it's very new. Go ahead.
Some people are addicted to both of them.
Yeah, you know that some people are addicted to maybe both of them. They all have what in them?
Nicotine.
They are the same because they have nicotine, right? Which is the what? We learned that.
The addiction.
That's the part that is telling the brain that you need more. In fact, vaping, when you take that hit, has about the same amount of nicotine as a pack, a full pack of cigarettes. So do you think you'd become addicted quicker to vaping than cigarettes? Yeah. Yep. Ben, what were you going to say?
They're basically the exact same thing, except that vaping doesn't have fluoride in it.
Yeah. So it might look cleaner, right? But from the video we're going to see, you guys heard a little bit about, some of you have heard about Daniel's story. The coating of the lungs is still the same. It might not be have the tar in it, like look gross, but it still has the same effect, right? How about with cigarettes? What do you need for a cigarette to work?
Fire.
You need fire, you need heat, you need a lighter. What do you need for a vape to work? You still need the heat, right? When you heat the product, that's when the chemicals start really becoming dangerous. So, if you don't heat a cigarette, you're not smoking it, it's not dangerous. When you heat a vape, you're talking about lead, all the metals we talked about that go in the body, the acetone, which you learned is from fingernail polish. That big word we learned about a couple days ago, who remembers? The cancerous chemical. That is cancer. Yep, that's dangerous too. Yep, formaldehyde, right? That preserves dead animals. That goes into your body, right? It's gross. Yeah. So all of these things. How many liquids or flavors did the video say that is out there? A little lower, but pretty close. Oh, no, that was the cigarette. Somebody said it. Yes, 8,000 different flavors. So, if it's only been out for a decade, do you think scientists and researchers have enough time to go through and test every flavor out there to see how many chemicals are in all of it? They don't. We just don't know. And that is the scariest part, like I talked about with the long-term effects. It is scary because we just don't know. Some flavors, like we talked about the popcorn lung there, you saw that? Some flavors will do certain things to the body. Some won't. So it's just a scary thing to think about. All right, so you've seen this list before. Smoking truths and trends. There are how many known chemicals in cigarettes we talked about?
Oh, 4,000.
Yeah, even more. I'm sure if it depends on the cigarette and the manufacturer, but about 4,000 on average. Here in e-cigarettes, there are 2. Lower than cigarettes, but still not, lower doesn't mean safer, right? It doesn't, safer doesn't mean safe. That's what I mean. Safer does not mean safe. It's still chemicals into the body. A refillable e-liquid costs about $30 per week. Now, it depends, just like smoking cigarettes. You might smoke a pack a day. You might smoke a pack a week. It depends on how much you're vaping is how much it costs. But it's still an expensive habit. How much do cigarettes cost in PA? Do you remember? $11 on average, right? So still an expensive habit. E-cigarette companies spend, now it's up to, it was 5 when we were just focusing on tobacco. It has increased now to $8 billion on advertising because they want to hook each and every one of you. The earlier they can do it, the more money they make off of you. There are nearly 3.6 million middle school, that's you guys, your age, and high school students vaping in the U.S. alone. That number we saw before, the 1.1 billion, included everyone in the world, included young adults, all the way to the older generation. This number just focuses on your age group and our country. This is a problem. It is a big problem. And this percentage right here, how much? 70% of e-cigarette users are teenagers. Not adults, they don't care about us, they care about you. So all the reason to be more prepared to say no. So this is Daniel. You've heard about him? Yes. Here is his story. Here's a little more about him. I know that you've heard about him on the surface, but I wanted you to see him, hear his voice, hear his story, and then we're going to discuss this a little bit more and really prepare ourselves to say no.
Our GMA cover story now, a teenager who underwent a double lung transplant after vaping is now telling his story as a warning to others. Paula Fair sat down with him, and this is quite a story. Good morning, Paula.
Quite a story he has. Good morning, Robin. Good morning, everyone. Daniel Ament was a healthy high school student who loved to sail, swim, and run. Then he started vaping. His doctors say his lungs were destroyed beyond repair. This morning, 17-year-old Daniel Ament is recovering from a double lung transplant, believed to be the first related to vaping. About how often were you vaping?
Maybe a few times during the day, but like at lunchtime if I was with people, but it would only be like hitting it once.
Do you buy the vaping pens?
I never bought one. It started off just whenever I'd be with my friends on the weekends, I would just hit theirs.
He began vaping in December of 2018 using mainly flavored cartridges and occasional THC pods. And in early September, he started feeling ill.
I had a really bad headache. That was my main thing. And I just felt really sick.
His mom, Tammy, had an idea the illness was vaping related.
On the way to the hospital, I said, are we still going with the fact that you've never vaped or you don't vape? And he said, maybe.
Daniel didn't come clean until he was admitted to the hospital.
It's really frustrating, and I know that the kids, I think they cover for each other.
Once in the hospital, he rapidly declined and was put on life support for 29 days. When they're telling you what happened and that you were days from dying.
Yeah, that still hasn't really processed yet. It's really hard to believe that that happened, but everyone's told me that one day they just said he has a 10% chance to live.
On October 15th, after doctors told his family death was imminent, Daniel was given a double lung transplant. In these dramatic before and afters he shared with us,
right?
Daniel's lost over 40 pounds. He showed us the surgery scars
fluid
on his neck and across his chest. When the doctors told you that this was because of vaping, you were skeptical.
Yeah, I didn't really believe it at first. It just didn't make sense because why didn't it happen to other people that had been vaping for years? Why didn't it happen to someone else close to me that I was hitting their stuff? So how did the chemicals affect me and not them?
This is your new normal. He says while he is grateful to be alive, his new life is forever altered.
Like I have to take over 20 medications a day. I have to wear a mask in public for at least a year. I can't travel for a year. Opportunities that I would have had before, like going in the military, I can't do that anymore.
You feel like you've been given a second chance?
Yeah, for sure. And I want to make the most out of that and make sure no one else makes the same mistakes I did.
And Daniel's lifelong dream of being a Navy SEAL won't happen now because of the transplant, but he's using his voice. He's launched a nonprofit called Fight for Wellness. He wants to advocate for other youth in the country to warn them about the dangers of vaping. But, you know, so often teens are lying to their parents about it. He lied to his parents until they got to the ER, but they'll talk to one another about it.
Oh, and hopefully they were going to be listening to him.
Yes.
And his message.
As you say, take your mess.
Make your mess your message.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. All right, Polly.
All right. So now you know a little bit more about him. I know that you heard about him before. We're going to answer some questions here in a minute. I'm going to pass out some paper.
Our GMA cover story now, a teenager.
Sorry. Okay. So a couple things I want you to write down so we can talk about. How did Daniel become addicted to e-cigarettes? When did Daniel tell his parents that he had a problem? Don't shout it out. What were some things that Daniel did before his lung transplant? Number 4, some of you guys know this. What will happen to Daniel in the future? Number 5, and this one you don't have to share. This one is like the whole point of it all. If you were offered a hit off an e-cigarette, and according to the statistics, 70%, you might be in a situation where you'll be offered or have been. What would be your personal reason? So this isn't someone else's reason. This isn't your parents. This isn't anything to do with anyone else but you. What's your personal reason to say no? We talked about how expensive it was, how it ruins futures. You can't be an athlete anymore. Those kind of things. And then number 6, why or how do you help others say no or quit vaping? Because some of your friends are already doing it. How would you persuade or talk to your friends to get them to stop? So I do need your name on it. I am going to collect these. And then we're going to go over them here in a couple minutes, right? Yeah. All right. Make sure you're filling these out. Okay, and I want you to really think about that personal no that we talked about. Using maybe some of that conflict resolution we talked about. Be specific. Not just no, it's stupid, no, it's dumb. But why personally? How will it affect you if you vape? Are you going to play baseball in college someday? Are you going to go into the military? You're going to be a mom, a dad, you want a future. Whatever that is, it's a personal reason. Yes, why? Now is a great time. Go ahead. Thank you for waiting for after the video. I'll take it because there's so much stuff. Thanks. Is that hers? If you guys need help, I'm walking around here. How did Daniel become addicted to e-cigarettes? So how did it first start?
His friends.
Get out of here. Good, yeah. So the numbers are up. I just got a message and it said there are two major themes. So we're gonna split these. I don't want that.
No, I do.
Why? We have more interest.
Before.
Is it yours?
No, mine's right here. I have mine. I have mine.
What did you get?
Oh no, I was gonna ask you.
Sure.
Can I see from far?
Sorry.
Like you're ready.
Okay, you're good? Okay.
I want to see from far.
What? So what, number 3 is what kind of things, activities did Daniel do before his lung transplant? Sorry, it's a little tiny.
Obviously sports.
What were some of those things that he talked about? We have a few more minutes. What I really want you to focus on is that number 5, that personal reason. Come on in, Wyatt. Oh, wait, buddy. I am recording, but I just put it on me, so you guys are not in the shot, okay? I have to do it for school to make sure that I'm really teaching you guys.
Making sure it's not for your YouTube channel.
Yes, it is not for my YouTube. I don't no YouTube channel. I'm not going to be an influencer. Trust me. I'm just going to be a teacher. I'm collecting a lot of fun stuff up here, though. Yep.
Miss Rose.
Hold on. You can raise your hand. I'll come to you.
Well, I'm not allowed to watch YouTube. My mom says it's too
Can you go to the bathroom?
Hey, you're gonna walk there.
Sure.
Sorry, I cannot see.
That's okay. Number 3.
Yeah.
What were some things that Daniel did before? Pretty simple. What were some of those things they listed? Hold on to it. If you're done, just hold on to it. We're going to cover it, okay? I am going to collect it. So folding is fine, crumbling is not. What's up, Vic? Yeah, he ran. What is it? was only, who knows the number? They said it. It was pretty low. 1 to 2 times with his friends. It was offered by his friends. The reality is you have to be how old in Pennsylvania to get a vape?
21.
Are you 21? No. Where is it going to come from?
Friends.
Yeah, so it starts with the friends. You have to be able to say no. Number 2, when did Daniel tell his parents he had a problem? This is mind-blowing, Dawson. At the hospital, on the way to the ER, when he was dying. That's how long it took. I'm going to tell you right now, if it's not a parent that you can trust, or you better find a good friend, you better find a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle. Talk to them if you are struggling with anything. Make sure they know before it's too late. Okay? Number 3, what were some things that Daniel did before his lung transplant?
He was swimming, running, and I forgot the third one.
Who can help her out? He was swimming, he was running. Wyatt.
I don't know the third one, but he wanted to be a Navy SEAL.
He wanted to be a Navy SEAL. What was he doing?
Sailing.
Yeah, he was sailing. He was active, just like you guys. Active, full lives. And now he can't do that anymore. What is going to happen to Daniel in the future? So this was taped. This happened in 2020. It is now 2023. What will happen to Daniel? Chris, he will most likely die in 2 years. Because the chance of survival of a double lung transplant, you have about 5 years to live. Yeah. Ben?
Or he has to get another lung transplant, double lung transplant.
Yeah.
Someone with the exact same blood cells.
Yeah. It would be super rare. It could happen. I'm not saying it couldn't, but his life is probably over because of what vaping has done. Number 5, you don't have to share it, but if you were offered a hit off a cigarette, an e-cigarette, what would be your personal reason to say no? Cooper?
I said no because I would want to have a life in a bright future.
Yeah, think about your future. I love it. Lytle?
I said I would say no because I would look play sports and do other things and it would cost all the years.
I love that you added something really personal. Liv?
Because one is stupid, and two, because I would play sports and
Yeah, I love that. Like, it's so important that our futures, we might be moms, we might be dads, athletes, whatever that is, you have to think about what's going to happen in the future. Dawson, last one.
Because of Daniel's story and my future in sports.
Yeah, because of Daniel's story. Dawson, I love that. So, last one, we got to go. How do you help others say no to vaping? Here's one. Show them Daniel's story. Super simple. Show them what can happen. I need those. You can hand them in. Go to lunch.
I was in the bathroom, so I didn't do that.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. You guys did an awesome job. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Liv. Thank you. Or you did double work.
No.
See you guys. Thank you. Have a great day.
After school.
There you go. Thank you. Thanks, Nora. Thanks, man. It looks beautiful. It's really good. Thanks, man. Thanks, Quentin. Thanks, Faye. Good job, good job. Am I 6? Are you 6? What's the...
I'm 6.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Noah. I didn't know what the deal was.